The metal tray hit the linoleum floor with a clatter that sounded like a gunshot in the sudden silence of the cafeteria. Spaghetti and red sauce splattered across Lucas Miller's only pair of decent jeans, looking like a gruesome crime scene on the faded denim. Whoops. My bad mouse. The voice was lazy, dripping with a mock apology that was far worse than an insult. Lucas didn't look up. He didn't need to. He knew exactly who it was. Braden Holt, captain of the lacrosse team, son of the town's wealthiest developer, and the architect of Lucas's daily living hell at Pine Ridge Community College. Lucas stood frozen, his hands hovering uselessly at his sides. He could feel the heat rising in his cheeks, a burning contrast to the drafty chill of the cafeteria. Around them, the silence broke. First, a few giggles, then full-blown laughter. It wasn't just Braden's circle. It was the bystanders, the people who were relieved it wasn't happening to them. "You gonna clean that up, Mouse?" Braden asked, stepping closer. He towered over Lucas by 6 inches, a wall of muscle and entitlement. He kicked a piece of a bread roll toward Lucas's sneaker. "Or are you gonna cry about it to your mommy?" Oh wait, she's probably too busy scrubbing toilets to answer the phone. That was the hook that dug deep. Lucas's mother worked 2 janitorial jobs to keep the lights on and pay for his tuition. She was a saint who came home with cracked hands and a weary smile, and hearing Braden mock her made a dark, hot rage coil in Lucas's stomach. But Lucas did what he always did. He swallowed the rage. He choked it down until it tasted like bile. He was 20 years old, 5'6", and weighed $130 soaking wet. Fighting Braden would be suicide. Getting expelled would destroy his mother's sacrifice. So Lucas knelt. He grabbed a handful of napkins and started wiping the sauce from the floor while the laughter rained down on him. "That's a good boy," Braden sneered, tapping Lucas on the shoulder with his foot, a gesture of ultimate disrespect. "Know your place." Braden turned and walked away, high-fiving his friends. Lucas finished cleaning the floor, threw his ruined lunch in the trash, and walked out of the cafeteria. He didn't go to his next class. He couldn't face them. He went to the library, hid in the back corner behind the reference stacks, and stared at the wall for 3 hours until the final bell rang. He felt smaller than he ever had in his life. He felt invisible, worthless, and entirely alone. When Lucas finally stepped out of the college's main doors, the world had turned white. The weatherman had predicted snow, but this was a deluge. The wind howled down from the mountains, cutting through the campus with a ferocity that stung the eyes. Lucas pulled his jacket tighter. It was a flimsy windbreaker, 3 years old and meant for autumn breezes, not a February blizzard. He shivered violently as the cold air slapped him. He had 2 choices. He could walk down Main Street, past the burger joints and the arcade where Braden and his crew usually hung out after school, or he could take the logging road. The logging road added 40 minutes to his commute. It wound through the dense, unlit pine forest that bordered the highway. It was desolate, unpaved, and in this weather treacherous. Lucas looked toward Main Street. He imagined Braden's pickup truck slowing down, the window rolling down, a slushie being thrown at him. He turned toward the woods. The cold was better than the humiliation. The first 20 minutes were brutal. The snow was already ankle-deep, soaking through his canvas sneakers instantly. His toes went numb first, then the pain started creeping up his shins. The trees overhead groaned under the weight of the fresh powder, their branches looking like skeletal fingers reaching down to grab him. It was dead silent in the woods, save for the crunch of his own footsteps and the whistling wind. The isolation usually comforted Lucas. It was the one place he couldn't be mocked, but today, the gray light of the dying afternoon made the forest feel hostile. He kept his head down, counting his steps to distract himself from the biting cold. 1, 2, 3. Just keep moving. 1, 2, 3. Mom's making stew tonight. He was about a mile from the main road when he saw it. At first, his brain refused to process the visual data. It looked like a pile of trash bags dumped off the side of the trail, partially buried in a drift. People dumped garbage out here all the time. Old tires, broken appliances. But as he got closer, the shape seemed wrong. It was too organic. Lucas stopped. The wind whipped snow into his face, blinding him for a second. He wiped his eyes and squinted. Boot. A black leather motorcycle boot, sticking out of the snow at an awkward angle. Lucas's heart hammered against his ribs. He took a hesitant step off the trail, sinking up to his knees in the drift. "Hello," he called out. His voice sounded thin and weak, swallowed instantly by the wind. No answer. He pushed forward, fighting the snow, dread pooling in his stomach. As he reached the shape, he realized with a jolt of horror that it was a person. It was a woman. She was lying on her side, curled into a fetal position. She was wearing a heavy black leather vest over a hoodie, but her jeans were torn, and she was half buried. "Oh my God!" Lucas gasped. He fell to his knees beside her, ignoring the ice biting into his legs. He reached out to touch her shoulder and realized why she wasn't moving. Her hands were behind her back. Lucas brushed the snow away and recoiled. Her wrists were bound tight with thick, industrial-grade plastic zip ties. The plastic had cut deep into her skin, the wounds frozen over with dark, crystallized blood. Her ankles were bound the same way. She had been executed. That was his first thought. This was a body dump. Panic, primal and electric, shot through him. He scrambled backward, his breath coming in short, terrified gasps. He needed to run. He needed to get out of there before whoever did this came back. But then he saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible puff of white mist escaping her lips. She breathed. Lucas froze. He looked at her face. It was battered, bruised purple and blue, her skin a terrifying shade of gray-white. She looked dead, but that tiny cloud of breath appeared again. She's alive, but barely. Lucas looked around the empty, darkening woods. No one was coming. No cars, no hikers. Just him. If he ran to get help, it would take him 40 minutes to get to a phone and another 20 for an ambulance to navigate the logging road. By then, she would be a frozen statue. He looked at the woman again. The snow was relentlessly burying her. Lucas crawled back to her. "Hey," he yelled, shaking her shoulder. "Hey, wake up. You have to wake up." She didn't stir. Her skin felt like marble under his hand. He needed to cut her loose. He fumbled for his pockets, searching for his keys. He had a small, dull penknife on his keychain. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped the keys twice into the snow, cursing, sobbing in frustration. Come on," he whispered, his teeth chattering. He found a knife. He grabbed the zip ties on her wrists. The plastic was thick, and the knife was dull. He sawed at it frantically, slipping once and slicing his own thumb, but he didn't feel it. He just sawed until snap. Her arms fell limp. He moved to her ankles and cut those free too. Okay, you're free," Lucas said, panting. "Now we gotta get you warm." He pulled out his phone. 3% battery. The cold had drained it. He had one shot. He dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? "I found a woman," Lucas stammered, his jaw locked from the cold. "In the woods. The old logging road off Route 9. She was tied up. She's freezing. She's dying. Sir, stay calm. Can you give me a specific location?" The old mile marker. "Near the creek. Please hurry. We're dispatching units now. Stay on the line." The phone beeped. The screen went black. Dead. No. Lucas screamed at the useless device. He shoved it into his pocket. He looked at the woman. She was shivering now, violent, convulsive tremors that shook her whole frame. That was good, he remembered from biology class. Shivering meant the body was still fighting. When the shivering stopped, that's when you died. He needed to insulate her. He looked down at his windbreaker. It was pathetic, but it was dry on the inside. Without thinking, Lucas unzipped his jacket. The wind hit his chest like a sledgehammer. He was wearing only a thin cotton t-shirt underneath. The cold was instant agony, feeling like 1,000 needles piercing his skin. He gritted his teeth and stripped the jacket off. He leaned over the woman and tucked it around her shoulders, pulling the hood over her head. It wasn't enough. The ground was sucking the heat out of her. He remembered something else. Body heat. Shared body heat was the most efficient way to combat hypothermia in the field. He looked at her. He didn't know her. She was a stranger who looked like she'd been in a war. On the back of her leather vest, which was now visible as he moved her, was a patch. It wasn't just a skull. It was the death head, the winged skull wearing a helmet. Above it, the rocker read, Hell's Angels. Below it, New York. Lucas's blood ran cold for a different reason. He was a computer nerd. He knew what that patch meant. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. The red and white. The most notorious 1%er club in the world. He was staring at property of the Hells Angels. Oh, God, he whispered. Please don't kill me. But looking at her gray face, the fear of the biker gang faded. She wasn't a gangster right now. She was a human being dying in the snow. Lucas lay down in the snow beside her. He ignored the screaming protest of his own freezing body. He curled himself around her back, pulling her tight against his chest, trying to act as a human shield against the wind. I'm here, he said, his voice trembling uncontrollably. I'm here. My name is Lucas. I'm not going to let you die. Time became a blur of agony. The sun vanished completely, leaving them in a gray twilight. The temperature plummeted. Lucas felt his own body heat draining away, flowing into the woman. He was trading his life for hers, degree by degree. His hands were numb blocks of wood. He couldn't feel his feet anymore. The woman stopped shivering. No, hey. Lucas shouted right into her ear. Don't you quit. Do not quit. He shook her. She groaned, low guttural sound. That's it, Lucas chattered. Talk to me. You gotta stay awake. Sea cold. She whispered. Her voice was raspy, broken. Yeah, it's cold. It sucks. It really sucks, Lucas babbled. I hate the snow. I hate this town. You know what I hate? I hate spaghetti. He didn't know why he said it. He just needed to make noise. I spilled spaghetti today. Well, I didn't spill it. Braden Holt knocked it out of my hands. Everyone laughed. It was pathetic. He held her tighter, his own eyes drooping. The snow was piling up on top of them, creating a strange, insulated igloo effect, but the core cold was setting in. I'm a coward, Lucas whispered, tears freezing on his cheeks. I just took it. I always take it. I ran away into the woods like a scared rabbit, and I found you. The woman shifted slightly. Her hand, encased in a thick leather glove, fumbled blindly until it found Lucas's arm. She squeezed. It was weak, but it was there. Not a coward, she breathed. I am, Lucas argued, his speech slurring. I'm nobody. Just a mouse. That's what they call me. You warm, she murmured. Stay. I'm staying, Lucas promised. I'm not going anywhere. He started to hallucinate. He saw his mother cooking in a warm kitchen. He saw a fire. He felt sleepy. So incredibly sleepy. It would be so easy to just close his eyes and drift away. No. He bit his own tongue. Hard. The metallic taste of blood filled his mouth, sharp and shocking. The pain woke him up. My name is Lucas, he said again, louder. My mom's name is Sarah. I want to be a network engineer. I like old sci-fi movies. Talk to me. Elena, the woman whispered. Elena. Hi, Elena. Nice to meet you. We're going to get warm soon. Okay? We're going to have hot chocolate. Huge mugs of it. He kept talking. He told her about every Star Trek episode he could remember. He told her about the stray cat he fed behind the apartment. He told her everything, pouring his soul out to this dying stranger in a Hells Angels vest because he was terrified that if he stopped talking, they would both become ghosts. He didn't know how long it had been. Maybe an hour? Maybe a lifetime? Then he saw the lights, blue and red, flashing against the tree trunks like disco lights in hell. Over here. Lucas tried to scream, but it came out as a croak. Here. He heard shouting, heavy boots crunching snow, beams of flashlights cutting through the darkness. I see them. 2 victims. Get the bus down here now. Strong hands grabbed Lucas. They tried to pull him away. No, Lucas mumbled, his fingers locked onto the woman's vest. She's freezing. We got her, son. We got her. Let go. Lucas felt himself being lifted. The world tilted. A warm blanket was wrapped around him, burning his skin like fire. He looked back. They were cutting the clothes off Elena, putting 4 lines into her. Someone was doing chest compressions. Did I save her? Lucas thought as the darkness finally took him. Or did I just die with her? The beeping was annoying. A steady, rhythmic beep, beep that dragged Lucas out of the void. He opened his eyes. White ceiling. White walls. The smell of antiseptic. Lucas. His mother's face hovered over him. Her eyes were red, swollen puffs. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. Mom. His voice sounded like he'd swallowed gravel. Oh, thank God. She collapsed onto his chest, sobbing. You stupid, brave, wonderful boy. You scared me to death. Lucas tried to move, but his body felt heavy, aching deep in the marrow of his bones. He looked at his hands. They were bandaged. Frostbite, his mom said, wiping her eyes. Grade 2 on the fingers and toes. But the doctors say you'll keep them. They warmed you up. Your temp was 92 degrees, Lucas. Another 20 minutes in. She couldn't finish the sentence. The woman, Lucas rasped. Elena, is she okay? His mother's face went stiff. She lowered her voice. She's alive. She's in the ICU upstairs. Lucas, police were here. They asked what happened. And there are people. Outside. People. Bikers, she whispered, looking terrified. Dozens of them. They've been in the parking lot since you got here yesterday. The hospital security is going crazy. Lucas swallowed hard. The pact. The Hells Angels. Do they know I'm here? They know everything, baby. The news is calling you a hero. Student saves biker matriarch in blizzard. It's everywhere. 2 days passed. Lucas regained his strength, though his fingers tingled painfully. The nurses treated him like a celebrity, but the shadow of the bikers outside hung over him. He wasn't sure if he should be proud or terrified. He had touched a Hell's Angel. He had seen her vulnerable. Maybe that was against the rules. On the 3rd day, a nurse walked in. She looked nervous. Mr. Miller, there's a patient who insists on seeing you. Her doctors cleared her for a wheelchair visit. She said she isn't taking no for an answer. Lucas sat up, adjusting his hospital gown. Let her in. The door opened. A nurse pushed a wheelchair in. Elena Rossi looked very different than she had in the snow. She was clean now, though her face was still a map of healing bruises and stitches. Her dark hair was pulled back. She wore a hospital gown, but someone had draped that same leather vest over her shoulders like a royal cape. She was older than he thought, maybe mid-40s, with eyes that were dark, intelligent, and fiercely intense. She waved the nurse away. Leave us. The nurse scurried out. Elena rolled herself closer to Lucas's bed. She studied him for a long time. The silence stretched, heavy and thick. Lucas fidgeted. You're the mouse, she said. Her voice was still scratchy, but it held a commanding steeliness. Lucas flinched. Ah, I guess. You told me that in the snow. You said you were a mouse. You said you were a coward. Lucas looked down at his bandaged hands. I talked a lot of nonsense. I was freezing. You stripped off your jacket in a blizzard, Elena said, her voice rising. You gave your heat to a stranger. You stayed when you could have run. That ain't the work of a mouse, Lucas. She reached out. Her hand, also bandaged, took his. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Do you know who I am? I saw the patch, Lucas whispered. Hell's Angels. New York. My husband is Frank Rossi. He's the president of the state charter. I've been with the club for 22 years. I was taken by a rival club. They thought leaving me in the snow to freeze slowly was a message. A way to hurt Frank without starting a war immediately. Her eyes narrowed. They were wrong. And because of you, I'm here to tell Frank exactly who did it. She squeezed his hand. You saved the queen, Lucas. You gave me back to my children. I have 3 sons. The youngest is your age. Lucas didn't know what to say. I couldn't leave you there. I know. And that's why you aren't a mouse anymore. Your family. Elena leaned forward, her gaze intense. The club pays its debts. Always. You have a problem, you have a need, you come to us. But right now, we're going to fix the immediate problem. What problem? The one that makes you walk through the woods in a blizzard to avoid him, Elena said darkly. You told me about Braden. You told me about the spaghetti. You told me everything, Lucas. And I remember everything. Lucas felt a cold sweat. Please don't kill him. I don't want trouble. Elena laughed, a dry, rasping sound. We aren't going to kill him, kid. We're civilized. But we're going to teach the world a lesson about who touches our family. She pulled a small object from her vest pocket. It was a patch. Not the death head, that was for members only. This was a rectangular patch, black with red lettering. Support 81 protected. Keep this, she said. Rest up. You go back to school on Monday. We'll see you there. Returning to Pine Ridge Community College felt like walking to the gallows. Lucas's mom had offered to drive him, but he refused. He took the bus. He needed to do this. His story had been in the papers, but the campus was a bubble of its own reality. As he walked toward the main entrance, heads turned. Whispers followed him. That's the kid. Is it true? He looks the same to me. He made it to his locker. He opened it, his hands still stiff. Bam. A hand slammed the locker door shut, missing Lucas's nose by an inch. Braden Holt stood there. He looked furious. The news story had eclipsed his popularity for a weekend, and Braden didn't like sharing the spotlight. Look at the big hero, Braden spat. You think because you stumbled over a junkie in the woods you're special now? Lucas gripped his backpack straps. She wasn't a junkie, Braden. Let me pass. Or what? Braden loomed over him. You gonna freeze me to death? You're still a loser, Lucas. You're still poor trash. And after school today, I'm gonna show you that nothing has changed. Braden poked Lucas hard in the chest. Meet me behind the gym. If you don't show, I break your laptop again. This time, I break your fingers too. Braden walked away. Lucas leaned against the lockers, his heart racing. Nothing had changed. The fear was still there. He went to his first class. He couldn't focus. The clock on the wall mocked him, ticking down to the afternoon beating. Second period. Third period. Then, just before lunch, it started. At first, it was a low vibration. The pencils on Lucas's desk started to rattle. The water in the teacher's glass rippled. Then came the sound. A low, guttural thrumming, like a storm approaching from the distance, but steady. Mechanical. Thunder. The teacher stopped talking. The students looked at each other. The sound grew louder, and louder, and louder. It wasn't 10 engines. It wasn't 50. It was a roar that shook the window panes in their frames. It was the sound of an invasion. What is that? Someone shouted. Students rushed to the windows. Holy sh**T. Look at the parking lot. Lucas stood up. He walked to the window. The main boulevard leading to the college was a river of chrome and steel. They were pouring into the parking lot, row after row, moving with military precision. Harleys, hundreds of them. The sun glinted off the chrome pipes, blinding in the winter light. They filled the student lot, then the faculty lot. Then they started parking on the grass. The noise was deafening, a symphony of American Vietwind power. And on every back the same patch, the red and white, the death head, Hell's Angels. The engines cut, one by one, until the sudden silence was more terrifying than the noise. 837 bikers dismounted. It was a sea of leather and denim. Big men, scary men, men with beards and tattoos and faces that said they had seen the inside of a prison cell and didn't fear going back. At the front of the formation, right by the main doors, was a massive black touring bike. A giant of a man with a gray beard and a President flash on his vest got off. He walked around to the passenger side of a black SUV that had pulled up alongside. He opened the door. He helped a woman out. Elena. She was using a cane, but she stood tall. She wore her vest. The principal ran out of the school, looking like he was about to have a heart attack. Excuse me. You can't. The president, Big Frank, just looked at the principal. The principal stopped talking. Elena looked up at the school building. She scanned the windows. She saw Lucas. She raised her hand and beckoned. Come down. Lucas didn't feel his legs moving. He walked out of the classroom, down the hall, and out the front doors. The entire school emptied out behind him, 1,000 students and teachers standing on the steps, gaping in awe and terror. Lucas walked down the stairs. He felt small in front of the army of bikers. He stopped in front of Elena and Frank. Frank Rossi looked down at Lucas. He was 6'4", a mountain of a man. He looked at Lucas's bandaged hands. This him, Frank rumbled. That's him, Elena said softly. Frank stepped forward. He extended a hand the size of a catcher's mitt. Lucas took it. Frank didn't crush his hand. He shook it with solemn respect. You saved my old lady, Frank said, his voice carrying across the silent parking lot. You gave me back my world. There is no debt I can pay that is enough. But we start today. Frank turned to the army of bikers behind him. Angels, Frank bellowed. Hoorah! The response was like a cannon blast. Bow. And then the impossible happened. 837 Hells Angels, the most feared outlaws in America, bowed. They didn't just nod. They bent at the waist, a deep, unified gesture of profound respect. They held it for 5 seconds. Silence reigned over the campus. The tough guys, the bullies, the faculty, everyone held their breath. When they rose, Elena stepped forward. She hugged Lucas, pulling him into the leather and the scent of the club. I told you, she whispered. Family. She pulled back and looked at the crowd of students on the steps. Her eyes scanned the faces until they locked onto one. Braden Holt. Braden was standing near the back, his face the color of skim milk. He looked like he was about to vomit. Elena pointed her cane at him. You, the tall one. Come here. Braden didn't move. 2 large bikers, prospects by the looks of them, stepped onto the stairs. They didn't touch him. They just stood on either side of him and escorted him down. Braden stood before Elena, trembling so hard his knees were knocking together. I hear you like to knock food out of people's hands, Elena said, her voice icy calm. I hear you like to call people mouse. I. Braden stammered. Tears were forming in his eyes. Frank stepped in. He leaned down, his face inches from Braden's. This boy, Frank pointed at Lucas, is under the protection of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. New York Charter. And every charter worldwide. Frank's voice dropped to a whisper that only Braden and Lucas could hear. If he trips and falls, I'm blaming you. If he gets a flat tire, I'm blaming you. If he has a bad day, I'm going to come look for you. Do we understand each other? Yes, Braden squeaked. Yes, sir. Get out of my face, Frank said. Braden scrambled back, tripping over his own feet, and ran back into the school. He would transfer schools by the end of the week. Frank turned back to Lucas. He pulled an envelope from his vest. Tuition, Frank said. Paid in full. For 4 years. And your mom? She doesn't scrub toilets anymore. We got a job for her at the clubhouse running the books. Pays triple, full benefits. Lucas felt the tears finally spill over. Thank you. You didn't have to. We take care of our own, Frank said. He patted Lucas's shoulder. You got a ride home, kid. Lucas looked at the bus stop. Then he looked at the empty passenger seat of Frank's massive Harley. Not yet, Lucas smiled. Get on. Lucas climbed onto the back of the bike. He looked at the school steps. He saw the students who had laughed at him. He saw the teachers who had ignored him. They were all watching him now with a mixture of envy and reverence. The engines roared to life, a thunderous salute. As they pulled out of the parking lot, the wind hitting his face, Lucas didn't feel the cold. He felt the warmth of the engine, the strength of the pack surrounding him, and for the first time in his life, he knew he would never be invisible again. He wasn't a mouse. He was an angel's keeper, and he was riding home.